Hello everybody and welcome to another video. In today's video I'm going to show you how I get ready for a dive. I do have a dive planned for tomorrow, which is Saturday at 3 p.m. I contacted my buddy Liam, who has been my dive buddy for a very long time, and he is free to do a dive tomorrow, so that's what we're going to do. So tonight I have to get my stuff ready and I'm going to show you what I do to get ready for the dive for tomorrow. So let's go and do that. Okay, so basically this is your scuba tank. If you've watched my previous video, you will see the type of gear that I use and how much gear that I actually have to use in order to go scuba diving here in the lakes in Alberta. In regards to the tank, getting ready for your dive, you just want to make sure that the O-ring inside here is good. It's in place, it's not damaged, anything like that. Air comes out, as you can tell. If the air is bad, it will have a bad odor to it. You can also taste the air once we hook up the BCD and the regulators to this. We can taste it, make sure the air is good in here. But as of now, there's 3,000 PSI in this tank. So you just basically want to take this off. This is an extra feature that I put on. It just helps protect the tank from, dings, scratches, that kind of stuff when you are transporting it to your dive. It really does help. This is about $7 or so to replace. You're looking at about $300 to replace a tank if it gets damaged. So this does help a lot. So we're just going to inspect the tank, make sure that we did get it cleaned and certified, which is right here, and that we did do the 5-year cleaning, which is right here. It's still valid. It's displayed here to the tank. I know that already because I've done it. But there is no damage to the tank. Everything looks pretty good. And like I said, the little seal there looks good. No issues with it. Air comes out and it seals up nicely, so it's good. We are going to put that back on. And I have 2 tanks, so I will do the next tank the same way. But let's get the BCD and the regulators and let's hook it up and I'll show you how to do that. All right, so I have the BCD here in front of me. It has an integrated weight system in it, which means that you don't have to wear a weight belt. You can if you don't have enough weight, obviously, in your BCD. However, you can put quite a bit of amount of weight in the BCD, so you shouldn't have an issue in regards to not having enough weight in here. So I'm going to show you how to connect the BCD to the tank. It's actually very simple, as well as the regulators. The best way to remember is the handle part has to be facing to the right, okay, if you're behind the tank, all right? And the opening is another way, has to be facing that way, all right? But I always remember that if I'm behind the tank, the handle part, the lever, twist tie thingy here, will be on the right-hand side. Okay, you then will take your BCD and you will put it over the tank. All right, now on the back, I think you guys can see this. On the back, it has a little little strap. It is easier to put the BCD on the tank when it is wet. So it isn't wet today, so you're just going to have to open it here a little bit, which I have done already. Okay, and then I'm going to place it on the tank. It is very heavy. Once it is on, we can strap it down. Okay, it's the other thing that's also very important when you put it on your BCD is make sure that when the BCD is tightened to the tank, that it is not sitting up too high, that it is lower than this for sure, because you don't want to be hitting the back of your head on the regulator part, because that can be very uncomfortable during your dive. Okay, So now that that is on, we are going to put our regulators on. I always keep mine in a plastic bag like this. Take care of your stuff, guys, because this does cost a lot of money, and you don't want to be replacing this. So it has like a little protection cover on it so that you don't get any sand or debris in it. Just unscrew it, get that out of the way. You will put your regulators on the right hand side, okay? And then you will put this to the top of the tank, like so. Now, when you are putting this on, don't over tighten it. Just do hand tight, but not aggressively tight, okay? When you feel that it has made some good connection there, just leave it. We're good. You're going to connect this hose to the BCD, like so. All right. You then have to check to make sure that your gauge is showing 0. All right. My gauge is showing 0. So when I let the air into the tank here, what I'm looking for is that it needs to display 3000 psi. That way I know my gauge is working. Okay. When you do this though, you must point the gauge away from you, okay, because you don't want it to explode and cause damage to your eyes or anything like that if something like that happens. All right. So we point it away from us, and then we open up the valve here and let air in, or let air out of the tank, okay? All the way to the very end, so you cannot turn anymore, and then we're going to do a quarter turn back, all right? Then we're going to look at our gauge, and it's showing just under 3000 psi, so that's okay. So I know that I have a full tank. So that's really good. Everything is working. So the next thing you want to do is, here is your secondary regulator. You just want to give it a couple squeezes. Not too much because you don't want to waste any air, right? So it's working. Take a couple of breaths from it. And I may make that sound because it's not wet yet. And the air tastes fine. There's nothing wrong with the air. We are going to now check this other one. A couple of squeezes on the back here. Working. And I'm going to taste the air. Make sure that this is working too. Everything's good. And the air does not taste bad. So, we know everything is working. Now we can actually, we can put air into the BCD too if we want, just to make sure that it does hold air. I'm not going to use the air from the tank because I need the air in there for my dive tomorrow. But you can do it manually by just holding down the button here. All right, so I've blown air into my BCD. It seems to be holding air. I don't hear any leaks or anything like that. So everything seems to be pretty good. To let the air out, we're going to hold down this top button right here. And it lets the air out for you. Okay. We're going to turn our air off from the tank. All right. We are going to make sure all the air is out of the hoses by discharging it out of the regulator by holding down the button. So all the pressure and air has disengaged from the hoses. I now can disconnect the BCD from the tank safely without having it going pop. Anytime you take this off, you put that cover back on to protect it from getting any dirt or debris inside. The other thing that I check is to make sure that my dive computer, which is located right over here, that the battery is good, and that it's working. Very important, because this is dive computer number 1. All right. You can preset your dive that you know you're going to be doing tomorrow. Let's say, for an example, if you're going to be going 100 feet deep, you can set this to notify you when you are at that depth, so that an alarm will go off, and that you won't, you will know that, okay, I'm at 100 feet deep. I'm not going to go any further than that, because that was my planned depth. So the other thing is, you want to make sure that you check your hoses. Make sure your hoses are all good. They're all in good condition. There wasn't any leaks when we put air in them, so everything looks okay. All right, so the next thing I can tell you is if you have an underwater camera, like the one I do, or any underwater camera, make sure that you have it charged, and that you have a spare battery, because there's nothing worse than getting to your dive site and then realizing that you forgot to charge your camera. So charge your camera. The other thing is make sure you have a memory card in the camera. All right, and it happened to me one time when I showed up for a dive, and I forgot my memory card, so that's not going to be any good. The other thing is, make sure your memory card is like blank. All right, don't go there with only enough room to do a 2-minute video, for an example. Clear your memory card so that it's empty, and that way you have no issues during your dive. Dive computer number 2. Now this one is my backup, okay? And this one goes on my wrist, like so. And the reason why there's a massive strap on it is because I have to wear a 14mm wetsuit, and gloves. So I need to be able to get this watch over all that clothing that I'm going to be wearing tomorrow. I'm going to be checking to make sure that it's working. The battery level in it is good. And again, I can preset my dive on here to 100 feet if that's my max depth that I'm planning to do tomorrow. So I can pre-do that as well, so that I get an alarm from this, and I get an alarm from my dive computer number 1. All right. So it's always best to dive with a backup dive computer in case this one breaks or doesn't work or whatever happens to it while you're in your dive. You got a backup. Don't ever share a dive computer with a dive buddy, because their dive is going to be completely different compared to your dive, even though you're doing the exact same dive. So never share a dive computer. Always have your own. All right. Another thing is, on the back of my regulator and dive computer, I have a compass. Sometimes a compass is really handy if you want to try to find your way back to a boat, or maybe to a location, a shipwreck, for an example, or a reef. It'll help you. It'll help you get to your location a lot better if you have a compass. All right. The other thing is that is important to have when you go diving, especially if you're going to be doing lake diving or a deep dive, is an underwater flashlight. Okay. Yeah, you probably want to check to make sure that it works. The battery in it is good. Mine, I don't have a battery in it, so I'm going to go out tonight and buy some batteries for it. And hopefully the bulb inside is okay. Other than that, it's good to have one. Otherwise, you're not going to be able to see where you're going. If you're diving in the lake, I would say probably as soon as you get beyond 30 to 40 feet deep, you're not going to be able to see anything without a flashlight. So, okay, let's talk about flippers. Flippers, just want to make sure that they're good. Your straps are good. No issues with them. They do come apart and they secure. I got really lucky finding the gear that I have. The gentleman that was selling it, I bought all my gear used. He just didn't want to dive anymore due to a medical issue, and everything was my size, so it was like perfect. And I don't mind the yellow flippers. It's kind of cool. A lot easier to see when you're in the water, when you're flipping away. Your dive buddy can easily see you. So nice and bright. I like them. So no issues with the flippers. Everything looks good. All right. So the next thing that we have to wear is boots. Now, I did a video before on all the gear that I have. This video, we're just making sure that everything is good for the dive for tomorrow. Everything is good. There's no tears, nothing like that. Boots good. And you hope and pray that everything still fits you being a year later. So yeah, if you've eaten a lot of junk food like me, these items may not fit anymore. So fingers crossed. It might be a tight fit tomorrow. And we got some gloves. These are gloves. They're really cool. When you have them on though, it's kind of hard to, you know, use your hands because they're very thick. So you just want to make sure that they're the right side up and that there's no holes in them or anything like that, which there isn't anything. So we'll do that later. Okay, next thing we have is our wetsuit. Now, you can buy a dry suit, but you got to take a special course to learn how to use the dry suit. And dry suits are very expensive. I just went ahead and bought my wetsuit. And so it's 7 millimeters thick for the core, upper body, and legs. And here's what I was mentioning here, the core, which is 7 millimeters thick. Now together you have 14 millimeters in the core of your body, which is where you probably will lose most of your heat. So, and you have a hoodie, which is a must for cold water diving. So you just want to double check to make sure that there's no tears, no holes, everything looks good in it. You're going to want to turn it the proper way because mine is inside out to allow it to dry. So yeah, I cannot wait for the dive tomorrow. It's going to be a pretty good dive, I think. All right, so now we have to get all this into the car, and then I'll show you how to secure your tanks so that they don't roll around in your trunk and cause damage to the tank or to your vehicle when you're driving. If you have to slam on the brakes, this can be quite dangerous. Can do a lot of damage to your vehicle. If this top piece breaks off, you're looking at a missile. So this will just take off and there's no stopping it. So you want to protect the tank when you're driving so that if you have to slam on the brakes or if you get into an accident, you're not going to have any problems with this exploding and taking off like a missile. So I will show you that now. Okay, here's the fun part. Carrying everything to the car. I got one tank here. Alright, hang on. Alright. Tank number 2. This is actually quite a big workout. Hang on a second. Alright, so what I have is a moving blanket. And it's quite a thick moving blanket. So all I do is I wrap one tank up like so. Okay, then I put the second tank in. Alright, second tank is in. And then I'm just going to wrap that up as well. And I'm going to put some in between. I'll show you when I'm done here. Okay, so there you go. As you can tell, it's not going to move. I tucked the ends underneath just to stop it from moving around. So now we put everything else on top of it. Let's go grab the rest of the gear. Alright, there you go. That's how I pack my gear. So those tanks are not going to move, and if they do, they're not going to move very far. This is extremely heavy. It's laying on it, and they're wrapped in that heavy duty blanket. So I got my flippers in the front right over there to stop it from hitting this. So I think we are good. Just some advice: bring an extra plastic bag for this, because after you dive, it's going to be dripping with water for a very long time. So you don't want that dripping all over your car. Bring a garbage bag to put it in, or if you have like a waterproof bag like this one, you can put it in there. I put it in this when I'm done, and then hang it up when I get home. So I got everything put away tonight so that I don't have to worry about it tomorrow. This way I can just relax, get in my car, and then head to the lake. Plus, now I know everything is in there. I don't have to worry about, hey, did I forget this, did I forget that? No, I know a day ahead of time I got everything I need. Well, there you go, guys. I hope you like this video. If you do, hey, give it a thumbs up, share it, and if you haven't hit that subscribe button, please hit the subscribe button. I'm trying to get to 1,000 subscribers. I'm nowhere near there, so I need all the help I can get. So stay tuned for tomorrow's dive. It's gonna be a good one. Twin Lakes. I'll see you tomorrow. Have a great night, everybody, and we'll see you in the next video. Ciao.